Men need a store that has the right thing for their thing, like a Kenneth Cole suit made with Choflex fabric to keep them cool at their cousin-in-law's third wedding in the middle of July. Whatever the thing, Men's Warehouse has the clothes for it. Love the way you look, Men's Warehouse.
Hey friends, this is Audie Cornish, host of CNN This Morning and The Assignment, and guess what? Every story you care about, every angle you want unpacked is now streaming on CNN. That means you can catch my show or other CNN programming whenever you want on your favorite device. And a subscription also gets you access to exclusive video series and unlimited articles. So subscribe to CNN at cnn.com/subscription.
Here at Blue Apron, we know exactly how hectic school nights can be. That's why we created Assemble and Bake. Delicious one-pan meals that make family dinner simple. Just assemble the pre-chopped ingredients and put the pan in the oven to bake. Then you're free to help out with that last-minute diorama. Shop Assemble and Bake at BlueApron.com. Get 50% off your first 2 orders with code APRON50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit BlueApron.com/terms for more.
Welcome to another Find the Edge production for the Premier League Cricket Club. Connecting players and coaches, clubs and leagues, volunteers and supporters alike, you're in the right place for the best of the 33 ECB Premier Leagues and the 20 NCCA counties, bringing you the stories, the stats and the standout performances that make this game great. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to both our Premier League and NCCA shows so you don't miss any episodes. Now, shall we get stuck in? So welcome everybody to the Overthrow, again brought to you from the Premier League Cricket Show, and join us today. It's another different one, Hugh. So last year we spoke to a gentleman who has gone on to retire since, far too young, but Mr. Lloyd Alley of Taunton St Cricket Club. And we spoke to him about the junior setup there and the work that had gone on there, and he told the story of a father throwing balls down to these boys, non-bloody stop. And I think this father might need a shoulder replacement at some point. And then Lloyd's been involved with him over the years. And just last week, Mr. Lloyd Alley was presenting Young Player of the Year to one of these lads, Thomas Rew. A couple of years previously, he presented the same award to James Rew. And join us today is that gentleman who was throwing those balls down all those years ago non-stop and still does it, Mr. Chris Rew. How are you doing, mate?
Hello. Yeah, the best cricketer in the family.
Have you got Young Player of the Year award though, Chris?
I think old player of the year, hit of the year probably.
Absolutely.
Dodger.
Hey, we've got Chris on to talk all things junior cricket. A lot of people will know the name through the Rew brothers, but for what you don't know, everyone, is that Taunton St Andrews have built a rather well-established junior section, and Mr. Chris Rew has been around that for many years now, building it up and working with the guys around there. By the sounds of things, Lloyd's been involved at some point, throwing balls down to the kids.
He used to help out.
Yeah. Simple question, Chris. Where did that all start with you at the juniors there?
So the head of the junior section, the organiser, was a chap called Alan Parsons for many, many years. Now, Alan was the father of the twins, Keith and Kevin.
Yeah.
And Keith played for Somerset for 12, 13 years. And Kevin actually played as well. But they were both Taunton St Andrews lads. And Alan has played for, he did play, he's 80 now, but he played for a good 40 years for Taunton St Andrews. He holds all the records for wickets and appearances and runs. Anyway, he took over the junior section and until he was about mid-60s. And then I was just coming up to retirement. And I thought that it'd be good if I volunteered to take over. He was looking to pass it on. And the club had done so much for my 2 boys at that point that I just thought I could give something back. And so persuaded the wife to join me in the venture. Because without her and her technological ability, I don't think I'd have been able to do it, because it is quite a big job. It takes a lot of time. So I don't think I'd be able to do it if I weren't retired, because especially in the summer, it can take a couple of hours a day, especially if you get bad weather, rearranging fixtures, sorting out problems. It's not for the faint-hearted.
So you're running top to bottom. You got the All-Stars at the bottom right through.
Yeah, so we don't do All-Stars and Dynamos. We've got a very good softball section. We have about 50 softballers, which are kind of ages 5-8 or 5-9. And we opted not to go for All Stars and Dynamos. That was a decision they took quite a few years ago. And then we've got under 11s, under 13s, under 15s, and 16s and 19s. So it all flows. But we've got enough coaches and volunteers to look after the softballers. So we don't need to go down the All Stars and Dynamos route. And I take my hat off to the clubs that do that. It's a very good ECB initiative, and kind of good luck to them. But we didn't feel that we needed to do it.
I think you're right. The ECB brought that initiative in to help clubs who didn't have that set up in the first place. And, we always quote another club up in Liverpool, Northern, who they have their own version of All Stars Dynamos that they sell out every single year, no issue whatsoever, with 100 plus kids. Clubs like Taunton, if you've got that set up behind you, there wasn't any need for All Stars or Dynamos in comparison.
Yeah, we didn't feel we needed it. Some of the clubs have got it now nearby around the Taunton area, and then don't have a full junior section, so they've got nothing to move into. So we take some juniors at under 11, 13 and 15 that have done All Stars and Dynamos in other clubs, kind of village clubs, but then haven't had the opportunities that we can offer. And our junior section has been quite strong the last few years, partly because of the strength of our men's cricket, and we've got 4 men's teams and a Sunday team. So we're quite well known around Somerset for giving youngsters opportunities playing at the highest level. And we promote our good 14 and 15-year-olds into the 2s and 1s. So probably earlier than other clubs do, probably have that reputation.
We found we've just moved away from Dynamos. All Stars has been brilliant for us. Dynamos, we got the numbers in, but we found the transition into those junior sides really difficult with Dynamos. It fell between 2 stools. We've moved away from it this year, and actually we're already seeing the benefits of actually moving away from Dynamos, not from a recruitment point of view, but just we've been able to get kids playing sooner into our bottom end junior teams much more easily. How have you guys managed that transition? Because I think I've got these sort of big transition points when I do the junior cricket. Obviously getting them through the door is point number 1. And then moving into hardball, or maybe organised cricket away from like quick cricket, but hardball is another. Then you get this transition point into men's cricket and a transition point into Premier League cricket. And they're the kind of really difficult steps. How have you guys managed those different stages?
Yeah, I agree with you. Those transition points are quite important. So the first one is softball into hardball. And we've got a group of 3 coaches, they're kind of volunteer coaches that specialise in that area, and they just concentrate on that group of 7, 8, 9-year-olds and getting them and then into the under 11 team. The transition from
they're not parents of that group. Then they are coaches that are specific to that split.
Yeah, no, two of them are parents. Yeah, and one is a kind of an ex first 11 player who's very good at helping. But underpinning the success of our whole junior section is nothing to do with Debbie and I. It's the quality of the volunteers that we've got. We've got really good managers and coaches, and trying to keep them sweet and trying to keep them motivated is my main job, really. And if you can keep them motivated and keep them working hard and enjoying it, then that's half the battle. And we just happen at the moment to have some really good, keen managers and coaches, most of which, to be honest, are parents. It's luck of the draw.
Well, you kind of need that involvement, don't you? That sort of that personal hook into as I mean, we're all guilty of that, aren't we, as parents? You do this job, and then all of a sudden you find, as you have done, you're doing a very different job, and the kids have
gone. But I don't mind doing that and giving something back, because the club did so much for James and Thomas. But we tend to find if you start with a manager's role at the under 11s, then they move up with them. So they progress then up to the under 13s and up to the under 15s and then 16s and then 19s. And they're kind of fully integrated then into the club. But the other tricky one is the transition. When going back to a question a couple of minutes ago about transition points, is moving them up from the juniors into men's cricket. And that's where we need our men's captain to make sure that he comes to the training sessions, come to winter training, so he knows the boys. So he's not just hearing about how well they're doing in the Somerset under 13s team or the school under 14s team. He's actually seeing them playing, training and playing for our junior teams. So then, the first team captain, when it comes to selection meetings, who the players are.
I think that's incredibly key, and I think when you consider 4 teams on a Saturday, where we talk to people in Surrey with 7, 8 teams on a Saturday, each one of those captains needs to know those juniors that are coming through, because as you say, otherwise to throw a 13, 14-year-old into a changing room on a Saturday with a bunch of, shall we say, more experienced players, it can be quite daunting for them, can't it?
Yeah, it is. So on our selection committee, we have, apart from all the captains and the chairman of the club, we have 2 representatives of the juniors. So there's me as the overall junior organizer and the under-15s manager. And I've kind of got no skin in the game now with the juniors because James and Thomas are through. So I'm completely dispassionate about it. So I'm just recommending the people who I think are good. And I'm regular. I go to all the junior training sessions. I'm talking to the coaches and the managers about who they've got coming through, making sure I watch all the games. So it's
yeah, it sounds like you've got a very similar role to what I do at my club now. And I've never had kids at my club. It's always been coaching and now managing more than that. And do you find that the most difficult thing there is that, let's be brutal about it, the kids are the easy bit. It's the parents that sometimes need to be more managed.
Absolutely. Themselves. It is. And that's where my wife comes in. She calls a spade, and she'll be really frank with them. I'm far too diplomatic and try and be too nice to the parents, and Debbie just tells them as it is. And if their child isn't good enough to play in a team, or they've got any problem at all with safeguarding issues, she deals with that. But quite often, it's the mothers who come with the problems, and actually talking to another lady is better than talking to a kind of alpha male type or non-alpha male. So that has been very useful.
I've never thought about that, but do you know what? When I think of my own club, we have All-Stars, Dynamos, and I'm thinking of my 11s and 13s. There is far more of the mothers that do bring them to the games than there is the father. I'd not thought of it that way, but you've made me think automatically. That is a case, definitely. And getting them to go with them through those age groups, have you found that over the last few years that's become an easier thing as you've grown your numbers? Or is there always a drop-off point where you just go, have we got enough?
We haven't had problems with a drop-off at all. This year, for the first time, we had to put a limit on the numbers, and we actually turned people away, which is that really grated on me. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
but we had to, because we run 2 teams at each age group, so you need 2 squads of say 15 each. So once you get over 30 in each age group, you then start having to rotate. So people who were coming late, we were saying, sorry, that we're full, and we're showing them other clubs they could go to where they might be able to get games. And we also spoke to a couple of the village teams locally and said, have you got, do you need players? So little village teams around Taunton that were in the leagues, they were quite often having to withdraw from games. We kind of latched onto this, and we spoke to the organisers there. So we're our surplus players. If we had 15 in the squad and we had too many for a week, we'd say to them, do they want to go and play elsewhere? And our parents were very happy with that as well. So it's more game time for the children. It means that the local village teams weren't withdrawing from fixtures. So we had 2 teams, Brompton, Ralph and Wiveliscombe, that were grateful to us, but we were just as grateful to them because we were getting games for our maybe less experienced, weaker players, but it was great learning for them.
Are you able to hijack your lads for coaching? I mean, our young lads look up to our first team lads, with awe, and that's the lads playing in the first team in Division 3 Derbyshire. Obviously, you've got boys that are playing at a significantly higher level. Are you able to bring them down?
They do come down. We're very lucky that we only live 200 yards away from Taunton St Andrews, so I do coerce them into coming down. They don't come every week, which is probably good, but 5 or 6 times they both come down and help. And when James comes down, especially, I'll say go around all the groups. There's 7 or 8 different groups. And Thomas would help with the wicket keeping. The little ones too, they do like that. In theory, we should have Archie Vaughan playing for us as well, but he didn't. He only played 2 games this season, but he came down and helped one junior session. Brilliant. And Tom Banton is another Taunton St Andrews player. He's been down a couple of times to help with the juniors, even though because he only lives a few hundred yards away as well. Yeah, and the kids, the boys and girls absolutely love it when they go down.
And it's not just because they're Somerset players. It's, in the case of your boys in particular, they're so young still that they can relate to them. And I think it makes all the difference. I know that, if I send let me pick an example. If I send our 40-year-old spinner to talk to our bowlers in our under 13s, bear in mind he's taken more wickets than anybody else in the history of the club. It's not the same as sending that junior who's just played in the second 11 for the first time.
Yeah, they speak the same language, don't they? It's not a language that I'm familiar with. But, they seem to know it.
Yeah, most definitely.
They're looking at their phones, all having a perfectly good conversation on Snapchat, even though they're 3 feet from each other. Transitioning through.
I don't know if you spotted the name Ben Mason in some of our Taunton St Andrews first 11 games. He's an 18-year-old lad. He's scored 100 for Taunton St Andrews and several other big scores. And he's got a great future ahead of him, whether he ends up turning pro or not. But he's a really, really nice young man. And he comes and helps out every training session, helps out with the little ones. And he gets on well with them. So he's got a level 2 coaching certificate already at 18. And that's he knows what he wants to do.
That's the way to do it, is to get them early onto that coaching course as well. It gives them that opportunity. And for someone like Ben, if he wants to go to Australia, for example, he's got that he can do while he's out there as well. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
I'm presuming at your club, you're like most like these days, you'll pay for the parents to go and get all these coaching badges, and you get a level 1 or a level 2, and support them to get as many. We need as many level 2 coaches in particular out there as possible, don't we?
Yeah. So we pay for any coaching courses that they do, and umpiring courses. We just had one of our under 14s who's not a particularly good player, but absolutely loves the game, and he's decided to go into umpiring. So
that's a good idea.
To do an umpiring course.
It was the WEPL, wasn't it? That got extra points for umpires, was it?
It was.
Yeah, it was.
It was. It's gone.
But they don't do that anymore.
One. Yeah, contentious league win.
Yes,
that's right. It was Taunton who won the league.
Yeah. Just on. Somerset as a whole. I talk obviously the county club, but also the area, just seem to be producing this production line of talent over the last few years. I mean, Tom Banton, you mentioned there. I think he's 26. He seems like he's been around forever. Obviously, I mean, James, your lad, he's 21. I think, is that right? I mean, I feel like I know the name since I was 12, and it's just this. I mean, the first team, I was just looking at the final game of the season at Somerset. I think basically all of the top 6 were about 24 or under. What's happened in Somerset to create this production line of talent coming through?
Wow, that was a good question. Why particularly Somerset more? Did you think that Somerset has got more talented youngsters than anywhere else? I'm not sure.
That's absolutely, yeah.
Be interested to check that average age, but I think you're right, Hugh. That top 6.
Well, I checked it against the Essex team that finished the season. All the Essex batters, save one, were 30 plus thereabouts.
But Essex have had. I mean, Essex had 4 of the England under 19s, didn't they? They had Luke Benkenstein, Charlie Allenstein, Noah Thane.
Yeah, Noah's about an 8. Yeah.
So they've got a good production line up there. I'm not sure that particularly Somerset, but well, Somerset have got a tremendous age group program, and they used to start the under 10s, probably starts with the under 11s now, and Matt Drakeley's always been in charge of that, and it is very, very good. He believes in getting as many matches as possible, Matt Drakeley. So somebody like Thomas, when was playing for under 11s plus the year above, you might have 40 plus games in a year. And that's how Matt Drakeley wanted to, bring his players on. He still does that now. So that game philosophy. I don't know why particularly Somerset would have any more talented youngsters than anywhere else.
I think the opening partnership on the last day, if I remember rightly, Archie Vaughan, I can't remember who he opened with, it's the second youngest ever for Somerset.
Yes. Josh Thomas. Yeah, Josh Thomas is a local lad. Yeah. His dad's a local teacher. George Thomas was his brother, pro.
Now it's Sussex.
That's right. Now it's Sussex. So they went through school and club with James and Thomas. So the 4 of them were very, very close.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, you got the Thomases.
The usual WEPL side, that, isn't it?
Yeah. If you got the Thomases and the Rews who were Taunton St Andrews. But also, they played for the same rugby club and the same hockey club and the same squash club. They were at the same school. They did absolutely everything together, and they were, the 4 of them, good sportsmen. So there's a good solid core. I mean, Archie Vaughan was a Cheshire boy, really, or Lancashire. Well, the Vaughan family, but he went to Millfield School. So
I was going to ask: is that the link? With Millfield and Kings down that way in particular?
Yes.
Does Taunton St Andrews have a direct link with those schools, or is it more of an indirect thing?
It's an indirect link with King's because they're so close.
Yeah.
So from where I'm sitting here, King's is 100 yards that way, and Taunton St Andrews is 200 yards that way. So a lot of the King's boys kind of naturally find their way over to Taunton St Andrews. But similar in the north of town, you've got Taunton School, which is another independent school, very close to Taunton Cricket Club and Taunton Dean. So they tend to find their way over there. And I think it goes without saying that unfortunately the cricket is stronger at the independent schools than it is at the local state schools. So if you've got an independent school nearby as a cricket club, then it is feeding you a lot more players than a state school might. We're doing our utmost to try and get as many state schools and primary schools linked to Taunton St Andrews, and we're getting more and more primary school children in, especially with our softball. Anyway, that's a different topic of conversation. I'm sure that's one we could talk for a long time about.
And has that been successful, getting those primary schools linked into the club? Because I'm a big believer in that myself.
Yeah, it has been successful. But again, the main reason is we've got two of our managers. I mentioned 5 minutes ago, we've got two junior managers who've got very dynamic and very hardworking, and two of them are parents of boys who are at primary schools. Yeah. And sure enough, they're bringing with them 5, 6, 7, 8 of their school friends.
Yeah.
Where in the past, maybe those kind of parents, those dynamic parents, have been parents of the independent schoolboys.
Right.
So if you can somehow find parents from the local primary schools or state schools that are prepared to give and give a lot to the club in terms of volunteering, then they'll bring the children with them.
Yeah, and that feels, from what you're saying, is that's almost part of the success of what's been going on over the last few years at Taunton, where you've got those juniors coming through with those parents, and then once, I don't know, under 7s, under 8s have come through, then a mate below or the brother comes below from that same school. Is that where you've seen the flow coming through over the last few years?
Yeah, that's been a very important part of that flow of new players. But there is one other thing, going back to Somerset and King's Taunton, which has been particularly successful with producing cricketers and attracting new cricketers. As an independent school, it is very close to the county ground. So the county ground is kind of 400 yards that way. So parents of decent cricketers, especially, will try and send their child to a school which is near a county centre. So there are good schools all over the place, good independent schools, whether they're really posh schools like Marlborough or wherever, but they're just not close to county grounds. So if you're looking for a place, like think of the Smead boys, both Smead boys came to King's Taunton because the county ground was very close, and they were spending 15 hours, 20 hours a week at the county ground, so they could integrate their schooling with going along to their academy sessions and their local sessions. So that does make a
I can see that, and I'm now thinking aloud to myself about independent schools around the country where you don't see as many come out of Sebra, Harry Brook yet, but you don't see as many because it's in the middle of absolutely bloody nowhere.
Exactly.
And it makes it does make the difference.
Well, I think Marlborough's another one. There's a great school in every other respect, but it's not producing cricketers because you've got Bristol or Southampton. You just can't integrate the two.
Yeah.
There's other schools, Sherburn around here, which is another big school, boys only, good sporting school, but they're just not producing any cricketers because it's too far to go to Taunton or to come to the regular age group programs.
The tricky balance, isn't it, between that sort of connection between the county and keeping the school cricket focused as well, though, I suppose. It's these schools, they often want their kids to be very focused on the school cricket, but it can be quite difficult to achieve that when, you've got counties begging for their time. How did you find that with your lads going through? Obviously, the county stuff was right up on the radar. Were the school happy for them to?
The school were very happy. We, as parents, always made the county stuff the most important, whether it was matches or training.
Yeah.
The school kind of bought into that, and they were absolutely fine. A county match would take preference over a school match, and county training would take preference over school, whatever was going on at school.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily with Taunton, we're quite close, so kind of getting them there and back.
Yeah. And how do they, when they, obviously the two boys progressed to we've got England Lions, England 19s, eating into their education, how did that work?
I guess, again, the school have been very good letting them go. There's never been a question about whether they should go on tours if it's under 19s or go to matches. They've just had to be very good on technologically, kind of with Teams and Zoom and things like that, just making sure
diligent,
they're diligent. And you need parents in the background cracking the whip, and we have done. So when they've had spare time, then they will make sure that we make sure that the work is done, rather than just sitting around, lounging around, watching TV and other things that teenagers do.
Yeah, and I think in a roundabout way, we've actually come to the answer to that original question a few minutes ago about why Somerset have got that complete youngster set coming through, because if you feed them back through these schools and the local clubs that they've been working with, like Taunton St Andrews, it's all been to produce good cricketers with a good education and being led all the right way, whether it's at Taunton St Andrews, Taunton Dean, or wherever, isn't it? And it all feeds into the county pathway at the end of the day there, Chris.
Yes, it is. But if you ask me how important these relative influences were on my two, I would say that the county pathway is by far the more important in terms of their own cricketing development.
Yeah,
I would attribute what they've done at Somerset from the under-10s upwards, with all these matches and all the winter training and everything, probably, I don't know, 60 or 70% of their development as cricketers, which leaves then 30% between club and school.
But it starts at the club. It starts at the schools, which we'll go on about it forever. That it starts at Taunton St Andrews with Chris Rew throwing balls down to the boys on the boundary.
Well, there was that.
What age were they when that started to happen?
Well, that started very young. Yeah, it did start very young. I've actually got an older boy called Charlie Rew who was a cricketer as well. He was in Surrey age group program. And I kind of realised with him that the earlier you started throwing down in the nets, that the better, because it just gave them that early advantage, probably just learning a technique. It means that they were always just slightly ahead of their peer group.
Yeah.
When it came to that first match in the Somerset when they were 8 years old, it meant that they are the ones who looked as if they knew how to play cricket.
And that I
would urge if there are any parents out there listening,
I've got a really interesting question on the back of that, Hugh, because of something that Chris said earlier. I picked up that you said that the key transition is age 7, 8, 9 into hardball from softball.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of things, you guys, let's be blunt, you get them going early. That if they're good enough, you get that hardball at them.
So, they did that transition when they were 5 or 6.
Exactly.
They both played their first games when they were 6 or 7, and I've got photos of them.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with it's not just my two, I've seen it with others as well.
I think that's a big issue generally with juniors around the country, is that when they start with that hardball. I know at my club, we've gone from 6 juniors to 100 juniors in the last 10 years. And it's still that question, is it 9-year-old, can they do it? A 10-year-old? And I use, I think, what you guys do, a very simple barometer. If they're good enough and they're brave enough, get them on that hardball as soon as possible.
Yes. As long as the parents are happy, as long as the coaches think that it's safe, get them going, and try and encourage then the parents to just throw hardballs at them either in the garden, or we've got good nets at Taunton St Andrews. They're always open. Try and get the parents to come down and just throw them hardballs in the nets. And that is one of the encouraging things that I see whenever I go anywhere near the club. There's always parents with juniors throwing balls at them.
The biggest transition point for my young eldest, both my kids and some of the others, we're really lucky. We've got a tension net action cricket centre in Derby. There's not many around. I don't know if you've seen one, Chris, with the tension nets. They're big in Australia and New Zealand, but
I don't think I have. Actually,
there's a three court league basically, and it's not a hard ball. But my eldest has been in there since he was 7. It's almost an accidental transition to hardball. You're in a court. It's a very small court. It's sort of 10 metres by 30 metres, and it's 6 or 8 aside, and the ball absolutely flies around it. But because it's not hardball, you can put a load of kids in there. They don't quite realise. I think it's much more unsafe than actual outdoor cricket. Someone flies this ball at you, it really hurts. And they don't play with pads. They need gloves and a bat and a box. And so they play that, and then you jump from that into hardball, and all of a sudden, I've got loads more time. The ball's not travelling, and at 11, really, hardball, the ball doesn't tend to travel unless you've got a Thomas or a James Rew hitting it at you. The ball tends to not travel too quickly. So the indoor cricket, I'll bang on about it. It's a wonderful transition for the younger end. It gets a bit more complicated older, but I've been really lucky. We're really lucky in Derby to have that. And
so that reminds me of another thing then. So I used to spend a lot of time with James and Thomas in the squash courts.
Yeah.
Because one, they played squash, which is fantastic for their kind of agility, and watching the ball is just a brilliant game for cricket. But the other thing is just in those very early years when they were 3, 4, 5, the ball always comes back to you. And what a great place to learn, rather than the garden or in the winter, just going into the squash courts. It's fantastic. And then wherever they hit it, the ball came back. And you can use different types of balls in there, whether you use credibles or tennis balls. And it sounds like a similar idea, Hugh. That's what we used to do our winter training.
I know Toby's really, really strong straight down the ground, because in our garden we've got a long, thin garden, and you can't hit it into the hedge to the right, and it's the neighbour's garden on the. Oh, sorry, wrong way around. Left is the hedge, right is the neighbour's garden. Your lads like that? Do you think there's some characteristics of your
from the squash court?
Well, I think that's the thing about the squash courts is they could try the ramps and the kind of paddle shots, and they would still come back. But and also if they went too aerial straight, the ball would go out of the squash court. So then you have to go run and get it. So they wouldn't.
Yeah, there you go. So they just get in the right angle on the shot rather than skying it. There you go. Yeah.
All the things that you can't teach down a normal cricket club, unfortunately.
True. Yeah.
Most definitely.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55% so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. This Monday night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Come celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Monday Night Raw, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
In terms of Taunton St Andrew's growth, I mean, there's a bit of an elephant in the room that I've got to bring up, unfortunately, Chris.
Yeah.
Relegation from the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm blaming Lloyd Ali. There you go. I'm saying it out. Lloyd, you retired, mate, and they've gone down. That's what's happened, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't help that he didn't play. He did say at the beginning of the season that he would help us out if we needed him when we started losing games.
He's a busy gentleman, to say the least. Does that affect the club as in terms of organisation, or is it just same again next year? We're going to go back up, full stop.
We've had quite a few meetings, the kind of committee meetings, and the senior people putting their heads together and trying to work out why we went down or what we could have done different. But this happened about 8 or 9 years ago. We went down and then we bounced back up. And we've got all these juniors coming up from some really good under-15s. They're going to come and play second and first team cricket this year. So I don't think it's a bad thing for the club. It's obviously not great. It didn't help that our pros, Thomas isn't a pro, but James and Thomas hardly played. Archie Vaughan didn't play. Tom Banton hardly played. There were some games that we lost that maybe we should have won. But I don't think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to a club to go down and even have several years in the lower division and come back up when we're ready.
Sounds like you're victim of your own success a little bit in terms of those players that have come through the club, players, rather than almost the best players are the guys who are not getting too much time in the pro fields and spending a lot of time at club level.
So we lost 2 other players as well. We lost George Thomas and Josh Thomas, who are number 3 and 4 batsmen for the last couple of years. George Thomas went off to Sussex, so he had to play his club cricket down there. And Josh Thomas went off to Thornbury. and played for Thornbury. He played most games for Thornbury this year. So I think if we'd had Josh, that would have been different. Other clubs are paying more money. We're not paying that much. We do have an incentive scheme. So if people do well and they score hundreds, there is a bit of money there. But we're not paying the big money per game that some of the other clubs in the WEPL are playing, and presumably all Premier Leagues. You probably know all about that.
We do.
Apparently some don't pay.
Definitely. As you said, do you think that's an element of victims of your own success to a certain extent, because so many good players have come through, and now you've got to find that next bunch to come through and bring the kick back?
I suppose you could. It's one way of looking at it, a victim of our own success. So had the Thomases and the Rews not been as successful as they had been, then they would just be the core of our team, playing in club cricket every week. They're kind of like Ben Mason and those kind of people who not necessarily go off there playing in the Metro Bank and positions like that. So that would be, if we had a list of excuses, I suppose that would be there somewhere. But
it's a nice excuse to have. If you use that as an excuse, it's a bloody good one, isn't it? That we're a victim of our own success. But
we're not beating ourselves up about it at all. There were lots of games where we scored 270, 280, 320. One game we lost. But we had some bowlers. Ollie Hurd is a very good bowler. We lost a couple of others. Jack Harding. I don't know if you know the name Jack Harding. He went off. And Cam Harding as well went to Bridgewater.
You lost Cam, didn't you? I forgot that.
Yeah, we did actually lose quite a few players.
Yeah.
They were good, proper WEPL Premier League type players, and those people like the Harding brothers played every week. Whether it's for Midsummer Norton for Jack or Cam. We could do without losing people like that in the future. But maybe that's a payment thing. Yeah, if we've got to talk to people and say, look, be honest with us, how much is being paid elsewhere. We do have some money as a club through sponsorship, maybe not as much as others, but maybe if we have to pay people, then we will, if we want as a club to be a Premier League club, which we do.
Most definitely.
Definitely, everybody buys into that.
But with your junior manager's hat on and looking after the junior section, do you find that as you look down the list of 15s, 14s, 13s, all of these kids that are coming through now, can you already see one or two that you're going,
definitely
they're coming, these are the ones that these are the next Thomases, the next Rews, the next Hardings coming through?
Absolutely, yeah. If you want names, I can give you names.
No, it's not about that. It's about as a manager, the pleasure that you take from seeing these guys come through, isn't it?
Yeah. They're boys. They're already playing Somerset under 15s. So there's one lad called Harry Everard who's a Hampshire under 15. So they're already being identified, and then they go through the kind of the Bunbury Festival. There's a kind of route then for the better ones through the Bunbury and the Super Fours and England under 19s. The kind of transition. Yeah. But we've got quite a lot of county under 14s as well and under 15s who we think they will be playing definitely seconds, if not first. But there's no reason why under 14s can't play. All those four that I mentioned earlier, the two Thomases and two Rews, played off in the WEPL when they were in the under 14. Yeah. So good under 15s should be able to. A guy called Nick Watson as well, who played quite a lot of our games this year. He didn't do that well. He's a big lad. He's an under 15, but he's 6'3" and hits it a long way. And he's, I think, one of the best Somerset under 15s on the circuit, I think. And he's got an elder brother called Thomas Watson, who's a year older than him. But he opens the bowling at King's Taunton, actually. Their dad is a teacher at the prep school of King's Taunton. But they're both exceptionally good cricketers. So certainly look out for both those names in the next couple of years.
Your lad Thomas first came on my radar, so we do the stats for look at the stats for Premier Leagues, and I built a tool to look at how old everybody was based on their stats. And Thomas popped up as a 14-year-old. I think he averaged 35 in the West of England Premier League.
Yeah,
something along those lines from memory. Sort of scratching my head, assuming that I'd made a mistake, because that doesn't happen very often. We talked about his transition. Was having James ahead of him, did James have the sort of slightly tougher route through, and Thomas sort of glided through on the back of that? Because I mean, I don't know how on earth you average 35 in the WEPL, which is a very strong league, at 14.
At 14.
Yeah. So that was partly Lloyd Alley and James Regan.
Yeah.
I think Lloyd is a fantastic guy, and Regan got a very, very high opinion of James Regan. He's a wonderful guy, and good luck to him, even though he's left us. But they got together and they thought that they'd seen Thomas and they'd seen him, what he'd done at kind of Somerset under 14s, and they thought he was good enough to play, and they put him in there and gave him a chance, and he got 50 on debut, I think, against Lansdowne. I think that was the game. And once you got 50 on debut, he went in 7 or 8. I don't think he won them the game, but the fact that he just stayed there. And then once he's done that, they obviously knew that he was good enough. And Thomas has always done better for Taunton St Andrews than James, because it took a long, long time for James to get 100 for Taunton St Andrews, and Thomas got one quite early on, I think. So
how does club cricket sit with the two of them? Is it still, is it still as important? Do they treat it the same?
Absolutely. They're very, very passionate about Taunton St Andrews, and they know how much they owe to the club from a very young age, from the coaching and from the match opportunities. Yeah, the fact that we talk about Thomas when he was in the under 14s, he probably played 8 or 10 first 11 games that year, and they know how important that is, playing in men's cricket. So they would play, if they could, they would play every single game. But as Ian, I think I mentioned this to you when I saw you at Worcester, that they're not allowed to play as many games because of the Somerset connection.
I think everyone's got different opinions, and it's, isn't it, if they feel like they're in form and they're doing things well, then you don't want them getting injured and putting a hammy and not being able to play when it really matters.
Sometimes if you're not in form,
yes, well,
then look at Archie Vaughan at the beginning of the season wasn't in form, and maybe if he had gone on a Saturday and been able to get a couple of big scores. It's true, 50 over cricket is different to 4-day cricket, and also they'll always say that pitches are not as good in club cricket as they are in county cricket. So I do understand Somerset's viewpoint, but James and Thomas would play a bit more for Taunton St Andrews if they could. Yeah,
and I think it's a real balancing act for the clubs and the counties, isn't it? Because I'll put my club hat on. You're the captain of Taunton St Andrews, and you don't have the ability to pick the 2 Rew brothers one weekend, but then all of a sudden you get told on a Friday night they're available, and you've got to potentially drop 2 boys. Yes. So it does go both ways. But I in the WEPL, not last season, it was in 2024. I do remember very clearly James Bracey being out of form for Gloucestershire. Came and played in the WEPL for a couple of weeks, scored a couple of hundreds, went back in to play for Gloucestershire, and I think he scored back-to-back hundreds himself. And you can just see that there's, the one thing that we talk about with Premier League players regularly now is the difference between Premier League and Pro, first class. It's closer than it ever has been. It's I'm going to quote someone from last year. Our good friend Stan at Lower House Cricket Club in Lancashire, who is in his mid-70s, and when we asked him the obvious question that you ask everyone in their mid-70s, how's Premier League cricket, Stan, compared to back in the day? And his answer was very quick and very blunt. It was far better than it was back in the day. Because in his words, back in the day, you might have your Viv Richards, you might have your Colin Crofts turn up as your pro, but the 10 players below were nowhere near as good. These days in Premier League cricket, you've got 11 players who actually, a lot of them are potentially ex-pathway, ex-seconds. Such a standard there that the practice is there for them, isn't it?
Yeah. You've got a lot of university players. You've got a lot of minor county players.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cream of the academies as well. You've got the 17, 18-year-olds who are probably good enough to play in the Metro Banks and that kind of thing. And they're all playing in the
makes a significant
Premier League. It is a very, very high standard of cricket.
One of Tom Scolley's cricket mentoring, big YouTube channel, is a Western Australian coach, and we had him on last year. One of his points, whether it was in discussion with us or one of his podcasts that he does, was there's never anything wrong with dropping down a level. Too many people are focused on, I can play, but I can only play at this level. He was like, you can drop down a level, and I think he ended up playing for Middlesex, but he said he remembered he was struggling. He went and played a game for the Northern Territory or something like that, got runs, and then that kicked him back on in first grade in Western Australia. And he talks about just get out there, just play. If you're out of form, play. Doesn't matter who you play for, just get a game.
Yeah, I agree. I tell you, I would personally, I would take that viewpoint, go out there and play as many games as possible. But I do take the point about injury.
Yeah.
Especially as a keeper, because it's quite easy in any
keeper.
match as a keeper.
Yes.
But James and Thomas are keepers. I'd say, don't keep, just field.
Yeah, and I've seen it up in this part of the world where my good friend George Scrimshaw, when he was playing for Derbyshire, would regularly go and bat number 4 for his club. I'd take the piss out of him and say, "You're not a number 4, mate, in a million years." But he wouldn't bowl.
I bet he can hit a long ball though, can't he?
And George, if you're listening, mate, no comment. But it's the fact is they can still play, and they're out in the middle, as Hugh said. They're doing something. And it's let's be honest. If they get out for a duck, so what? But if they go and score 150 and get that form back, that's what we're all there for, isn't it?
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
What do you think about players, county players, going overseas in the winter, going down to Australia or South Africa or New Zealand? Because you do find that the batsmen tend to go, the counties tend to be happy with the batsmen going, but not the bowlers, because again, they're worried about injury. They'd rather have them in the county nets and just keeping an eye on them.
Well, I mean, we see from a Premier League point of view, we see the increase in stats. If a lad, an 18-year-old, he's just finished his A-levels and he goes and he's averaged 30 in the Premier League and he has a winter playing first, second, third grade, Sydney, Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, Queensland, don't want to miss Queensland out, and maybe a bit of Tassie. You can almost add 20 to his average the next season when it comes back. We don't sort of see it so much from a county point of view. We're not. James Bracey was out there last year was he in Melbourne?
No, he was in Perth. I think
Perth he was.
So I don't know. I think he's had a good year, hasn't he? I haven't tracked him.
Yeah, very good, very good.
So from a batting point of view, but bowling's so difficult, isn't it? It's such a balance between fitness and health and getting enough overs and not getting enough overs. I don't get involved.
It's a balancing act for them all, and I think we're seeing more and more of it. And the franchise world's opened up for the pros, obviously, to go and play all over the place and play a little bit here, a little bit there. But my view, in very simple terms, if they're under the age of 21, 22, and they're still living at home, or they're still got sort of that very sort of shall we call it, domesticated life, etc., get them out there into Australia for the winter. Play cricket. They've got to fend for themselves a lot of the time.
Yes,
and there's one name in particular, Hugh, who we will throw out there time and time again, Mr. Joe Pocklington. It did wonders for him to go and play a couple of times out there, and he's changed his game a little bit on the back of it, and got a 2-year deal with Notts. And we're sure that there's a lot. We interviewed Alex Russell last year, who was playing first class cricket in Zimbabwe. And the standard was, he'd just been let go by Northants, but no, he went out there and he's a spin bowler, not a fast bowler, but he went out there to bowl a lot, to bat a lot. And it's got to be in the nature of a cricketer to want to keep practicing at the end of the day, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Most definitely.
These academies that they run in Australia and the one in South Africa now, they're very, very good as well. So we've got one of our lads, James Matravers, has just gone down to Australia, our Premier Taunton St Andrews guys. He's gone to the ICC in Melbourne. So Sydney's got the ICC, Melbourne's got the ICC, and there's one in the Lehman in Adelaide. But they work them really, really hard. It's really intensive. Gym work as well as training every single day, and as many matches as they can. And I've seen people go down there and come back, transformed as cricketers. Very, very important.
And I think not just as cricketers, as people. The difference it makes by just having to be down there and look after themselves in most cases and fend for themselves. A lot of these young lads in particular, it's something completely different for them. Just bringing it fully back round to Taunton St Andrews before we finish, Chris. Yeah. Something you said earlier, which just makes me jealous. Oh. You sell out, effectively. Your softball's closed this year because you've got too many, effectively, if you're not careful.
Yeah, we've got about 45, 50. And we've said no more.
Yeah,
how different? Under 11s and under 13s, and under 15s, we've got enough for two. We had two under 15 teams as well. So that's was about 40, because that's the age we find they start dropping out. They get more interested in other things, whether it be sports or just being lazy, whatever it is. I think it's actually the parents have a lot to say, don't they, in children and what children do with their time, under 11s, under 13s. But then when it comes to under 15s, it's actually the children themselves start saying, well, I want to do this with my time, and it's not cricket because I'm not the best cricketer in the world, therefore
absolutely
I often do mountain biking or do other stuff. So numbers have always dropped away when it comes to under 15.
The one thing you talk about, a 15-year-old doing other things. So I coach the under 15s football as well as my involvement with cricket. And we've got groupies now. We've got female groupies. And they've been knocking around for a few years. And I suspect that might be another reason why all day at the cricket on a Saturday potentially isn't right up the radar. But we've got this team of groupies.
I've not seen that at my club because we haven't had an under 15 side for a while yet. But how do you see Taunton St Andrews over the next 2 or 3 years then, Chris, in terms of growing that? Because I'm sure you'd love to have more volunteers to grow that softball and keep that pyramid gets wider at the bottom so that you have got that going forwards.
Yeah. So the softball is so important to us that we had a very good chap who ran it with 3 volunteers last year. This year we've actually got somebody that we're going to pay. Not a huge amount, but just
that's interesting.
And I think it's the first time actually the club has paid for a junior coach. So, but we think that softball age group and having those 45 coming through, and it is a real handful looking up to 45, even on every Tuesday evening for a couple of hours. Even if you've got 2 or 3 volunteers to help you out, you've got to plan it and you've got to have all the equipment ready. So that's the route we've gone this year, which is not something we did lightly, but we found a lady who's kind of in the teaching world with the local authority, but she's fantastic and she's going to be brilliant. And then the under 11s, we've capped it at about 30, 35 under 11s with
your 2 squads.
2 squads, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's interesting you talk about paying coaches, and Hugh'll remember this now very clearly. We spoke to Nick Anderson at Didsbury Cricket Club up in Manchester back end of last season, and they pay all of their junior coaches. And the reason they pay all of their junior coaches is because then they don't have to put on parents to get involved, but they can ask parents to do the barbecue, to run the bar, to do other things. And the parents are more comfortable, they decided, on doing that than having to corral under 7s, under 9s, under 11s. And they use these university students, and they'll pay them what they have to pay them to do that. Do you think that's something that in junior cricket generally would help clubs to have that sort of it's a fulcrum then, isn't it, that person?
I mean, we would rather not go down that route of paying managers and coaches. So we have, I don't know if I'm using this word managers a lot, but we will have every team as a manager, and sometimes the manager is the coach, and sometimes we've got other coaches who just kind of drift around. But the key to the whole thing is identifying those managers and finding people who are keen. So our 2 under 11s, we've got the guy, one of the under 11s, he runs the local amateur dramatics society as well. And what a job that is. They put on the local pantomime in Taunton, and he gives hours and hours and hours as a volunteer to that. And then in the summer, he switches to cricket. And then the other one is a policeman. And, we all know about policemen, how dedicated to service and duty and responsibility. And what a wonderful guy he does. And he gives so much of his spare time as well. So is it luck? I don't know whether you just find these people who are prepared to give everything. And they invest not just in their own children. I mean, both of those guys have got their own children who've played, but they're prepared to give their spare time for other parents' children as well.
Yeah.
And it's then slightly infectious as that other volunteers want to help them and make their job easier when it comes to scoring and umpiring, setting up the pitches, and helping out. If one Tuesday training session, somebody's away on holiday, then somebody will put their hand up and says, I'll step in this week.
I think that's really important, that infectiousness. I mean, we've seen that at our club as we've gone from 6 juniors to 100 over 10 years. One or two parents come along and then their friend will say, oh, I'll do a bit of this, I'll do it. And then, as you say, that one who sets up the cones or does the scoring, who's never done any scoring until that night, and then they get the app out and go, well, I can do this on my phone, that's easy. That's one of the areas where I think cricket's making it a little bit easier to bring people in, but you still have to ask that question as a junior manager, as a junior coordinator, director, whatever your title is at Taunton.
Yeah,
you've got to ask people, will you do this for me?
Yeah. So last year, one of our age groups had we didn't have a manager, and it was literally 3 or 4 days at the beginning of the season. So I gathered all the parents around and said, look, if nobody puts their hand up now, we're going to have to pull this team from the league. And I kind of gave it to them as an ultimatum. And somebody did put their hand up, and they ended up being absolutely excellent. But we try and put everybody in place. So I've already got now everybody in place for next April, as long as there's no changes. But hopefully that situation doesn't arise where you have to give them an ultimatum when nobody's put their hand up.
And did you say you incentivise volunteers to a certain extent?
Well, so it depends what you call incentives. I mean, they don't have to
a pint
pay.
over the bar for me is incentivisation.
Yeah, well, there is quite a lot of that. They get a lot of drinks bought from this. They don't have to pay their subs, whereas other people have to pay junior subscriptions. Yeah. They get, I don't know, present at the end of the season. I suppose if you've got too many juniors for a team, then if you are the manager or the coach of a particular team, it just means that your child gets to play in every game because that you've got to be there, that they've got to be there. And I think everybody buys into that and everybody understands that, all the parents group. So if you are father of a very keen young cricketer, that does mean they get to play every week.
Yeah.
But no, there's no money changes hands. We don't have to pay. They say paying this softball lady is the first time we've ever had to pay.
It's a bit like herding cats at the bottom end, though, isn't it?
Yeah, she's got the most difficult job in the club.
It is the most difficult job. And it's one that we think is most important, getting those 5-6-year-olds in and having a reputation locally, being a place to go for a really well-organised winter as well. Well, I say winter, but January, February, March. It's not this time of year. But and those are for our winter sessions are free as well. And that's another thing which I've kind of think is quite important, is that our junior subscriptions are quite low and they haven't really changed much over the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to squeeze every pip out of parents. So if people come halfway through a season, they only pay half a rate. If we have a sense that anybody is finding it a struggle, then we'll say to them they can come for free. And because I suppose luckily as a club we have got quite a comfortable sheet or bank account, so we don't have to use the junior section as a way of sucking money out of people.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's quite important.
It's been great talking about Taunton St Andrews and juniors there, and ultimately we've talked about schools and the Somerset pathway and all the way through there, which has been great. But it would be remiss of me not to ask you the really obvious question about your boys. Yeah, are you looking forward to the winter in Australia?
Are you going?
Well, we're looking at going. Obviously, they're both going to Perth. We've only just found out. Well, we found out 2 weeks ago when the squad was announced. We didn't know before that.
Wow.
So we started looking straight away, only to find out, of course, they're in Perth at the same time as the Ashes. Trying to find accommodation in Perth anywhere near the middle of town at a reasonable price is difficult. And trying to find flights is difficult. We're already going to the Under-19 World Cup, which Thomas, we think, well, it hasn't been confirmed yet, but he has been captain of the Under-19s on the way through this year. So,
and he's got a couple of years left before he actually has to stop playing for them.
Yeah. So we are going to go to Zimbabwe as well. Now, it's a fantastic opportunity for them, whether we go or not. for Thomas to be included was just unbelievably good, because the people he's going to be rubbing shoulders with over there, the Lions squad, the great bunch, and the coaches.
Yeah.
And they might even get a chance to spend some time with the senior squad, because the senior squad are in Perth as well. I don't know whether they're staying in the same hotel or using the same coaching facilities. Mm-hmm. So it is an amazing opportunity for both of them. There aren't many matches, actually. There's a couple in Perth, and they play one in Canberra and one in Brisbane over 6 weeks.
Well, I think the most important game is the game they're playing against the England squad as the actors.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad place to start, is it?
No, it is amazing. For Thomas, it's just an amazing opportunity. I mean, James has been in the England squad this year, earlier in the year against Zimbabwe, whether he's knocking on the door but he's in that kind of being talked about. So if he has a really, really good tour, then that might put him in good stead for the upcoming 18 months or so.
There'll be a few lads around Perth grade cricket, if they need another game, if they're a bit short of match practice,
Yes.
There's a few lads playing grade cricket. Say, come and play for us for the weekend.
Yeah.
You'll be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, Somerset have a very strong relationship with Fremantle Cricket Club. Lots of Somerset players have gone there over the years, so they might find themselves down there, maybe looking for.
I reckon Teague Wiley would have them down and Rocky and Manager. So
I think he would do straight away.
Yeah.
A question about the under-19s that the youngest Rew has been playing in this year. At his age, I still find it ridiculous, but that's just by the by. How good are that under-19 group? Because the amount of guys who've come out of that group, to go back to the very beginning of our conversations, who've played Metro Bank, and
a lot of them
being picked for the Lions, and how good is that group?
They're good on paper, aren't they? When you think you've got Ryan Ahmed's younger brother and Rocky Flintoff, who haven't been playing much with them because they're already established pros playing in the Lions.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ben Dawkins, you've got Ben Mays, outstanding cricketers. But you say Thomas is young, but there's a lad called Joe Moores. Have you come across Joe Moores?
Yeah.
So he's a year younger than Thomas. What a talent he is. To see him in full flow.
Is that right? Peter Moore's nephew?
Peter Moore's nephew, yeah. He is an amazing young player. And I think, I don't know, can't pre-select the team, but he'll definitely be. He's going to the West Indies, and he's been playing with them for last year. But he's an amazing young cricketer. And he's got a next World Cup as well to play in, potentially. And the bowling unit, you mentioned Harry Moore. He's been injured the last 6 months, but if he can come back and bowl. Sebastian Morgan, what a player he is. But he's making waves in county championship now as well as in the Metro. So
Ralphie Albert.
I could go on. I could sit here for 10 minutes if I can remember them all. They're just an outstanding young group of players.
It is, and I'm 56 years old. Hugh's a little bit younger than me, but I can't remember a time that I could name so many England under-19 players. And it's not just because I look at this on a week-to-week basis. These are names because they've played Metro Bank, because they've played county, because all of a sudden these are names that are just coming off the end of our tongue, like they've never done before, aren't they?
Exactly. I mean, there have been good that last under-19 team that were out there were good. And then the one prior to that was one with Tom Prest and Bethel.
Yeah.
And they were good, and they got to the final, but couldn't get over the final hurdle. So we're hoping that this year's lot will go all the way.
Absolutely.
But then look at the Indian team, and Srinivanshi. God.
I was there with you, Chris, on the day he decided that Worcester was the place he was going to explode. And he was playing a different game that day.
He's absolutely amazing. And that other guy, Matra, who opens the batting for Chennai in the IPL.
Yeah.
So, they're in with a shout, and they're actually wiping. I don't know if you're following this series. They're over in Australia at the moment.
5-0.
Wiping the floor with them.
Yeah.
But Bangladesh were very, very good. That series against September, which was tied, Bangladesh looked really good. I think South Africa look a little bit off the pace from just looking at the other results. Famous last words, but it's going to be a great competition, that Zimbabwe.
Well, South Africa they just produce players out of nowhere. They don't know this. You've never seen some guy before, and all of a sudden he's averaging 50 with the bat and 20 with the ball.
Well, here's the challenge for Thomas from us for the winter. Yeah, he's going to be out in Australia with Ryan Ahmed. He's going to, at some point, he might be around Farah and Ahmed again with the under-19s. We want to know...
Cavs versus
Cavs and Carrington versus Taunton. We want to know which is actually the best Ahmed bowler.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough question.
I know which one's the best batter, but I want to know which one's the best bowler. And then there is...
Well, they would know from the keeping. It's fair. I don't talk to James much about cricket, but what I do ask him about is about bowlers, because he's got to keep. So if you ask him the difference between Shoaib Bashir and Jack Leach and all these other people, so I'm not going to disclose what the answers to are, but keepers know how good bowlers are because they know just how regularly they take wickets and what balls get the wickets and
bowlers
how the batsmen react.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure, Chris, talking. Whether you end up in Australia or not, we'll all be watching what your boys do down there. We'll be obviously clearly watching what Taunton St Andrews do next year as a club generally, because it's a shame not to see them in the Premier League when we look from Premier League perspective. And hopefully they come back, but we're going to keep an eye on one or two of those names that you've mentioned as well in the next couple of years. Just see if that another one tips through. You'll know if they're going to come through. And it's very simple. If they go in our articles that go in the cricket paper, because Hughes picked up this random name called like Thomas Rew did a year and a half ago. It's like, who's this kid? We'll keep an eye out for one or two of them. Ben Mason's on the radar though, without a shadow.
Yeah, Ben's a little bit older, but he's 18 now. Anytime you want anything to know anything, please feel free to email me or message me. And it was nice to meet you.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Chris.
Okay. Thanks. Cheers, lads. Bye. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us at the Premier League Cricket Club. We'll be back soon with more from the world of Premier League and NCCA cricket. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review and follow us wherever you get your socials. Or maybe check out our website, premierleaguecricket.co.uk, to stay updated. Until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.